Hello, everyone. David here. Welcome back to the DGR podcast. Episode number 48 is now in the books. So thank you all for joining me. Hope you're doing well. I have a great guest today. I have Samantha Ciaccia, the best name I've ever had to say, I think. I had a great chat with Sam today. Sam has been making everyone on the Instagram jealous over the last several months, I think. She's been traveling. She's been building a business. She's been coaching. She's a coach who specializes in kettlebell coaching and education now as well. So she's educating a ton of other coaches around the world, and she's building a mini empire as far as I can see. And that's basically what I had a chat with her today about. I was like jealous of her, what she was doing, and I wanted to figure out how she was doing it. So how was someone who was working full time in two jobs, or working quite hard in two different jobs, how have they been able to completely kind of change direction in some ways and start to build a business, and as a solopreneur, as I like to say it, and travel at the same time and all these things. So I wanted to chat to her about that, and she duly obliged and gave me lots of good things to think about. Also, Sam has had a couple of health issues recently, or complications. I don't really know exactly how you would put it, and she was happy to chat about that as well. So really great episode, really great person, really great coach, and I think she's going to go on to do some really big things in the industry. So I'm hopefully, after getting in relatively early in that journey, and looking forward to watching it along the way as well. So without further ado, here's Sam, and make sure you are Samantha, and make sure you give it a share and a like, and shout out for both of us if you do enjoy it. My first question is, you could probably get this all the time, but how do I pronounce your last name?
Yeah, so officially it's pronounced as Ciaccia, Italian background. However, I always say this, I did not know that until I went to Italy first time when I was 30. And I was actually at a certification with a name tag. So I didn't say anything. And the Italians, they walked up to me and they're like, Ciaccia. And I was like, what? And I was like, yeah, and you're from the South. And I was like, how do you know more about me and my life than I do? So I went back to the States, because growing up, we pronounce it as Ciaccia, and that's what I'm used to. Yeah. And we did like a 23andMe, and it turns out our family's from the Calabria, which is the southern region of Italy. So it was just a really funny story. So I'm trying to get used to saying Ciaccia now instead of Ciaccia, but it's a habit.
Ciaccia is a bit more exotic, I think. So yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
We were actually in Italy this year. We went to Rome, and then we went to the Amalfi Coast. We had a friend's wedding there, and we kind of traveled around. So I loved it. It was great. Have you been back now on this trip?
Oh, yes. I've been Italy. So I have a friend who lives in northern Italy, and essentially she was like my home away from home. So I left like my clothes there. I would pop in, hike the Dolomites real quick, say hi for a weekend, and then continue on around Europe. So yeah, I've been back. I always try to make an effort to go at least once a year to visit Italy. Yeah. I just love it. It's just a cool country.
Okay, nice. So we're going to talk today about you're a solopreneur, I think is how I would say it. Yeah. Have you used that term before?
Actually, I've never heard of that before. I like it.
It's good, isn't it? Solopreneur. It's not mine, but I like it. It's different. It's a bit different to an entrepreneur. I think you're a solopreneur. Maybe I'm just saying that, but are you in business on your own?
Yeah.
Okay.
Surprisingly, yeah.
Yeah. I was a solopreneur, and then Kira kind of gate crashed it and made things much better. So I can't use that term anymore, even though it sounds cool. But do you want to give us a little bit of a background?
Yeah.
And how you kind of got to where you are at the moment?
Sure. It's kind of a wild story, actually, because maybe some of you guys know, I actually was a healthcare professional. I think, I still am. I'm just not currently practicing. I graduated as a physician assistant and worked in emergency medicine for 10 years in New York City. And the reason I chose emergency medicine, it's a really awesome career to get into, and you learn so much. And I do very well in high stress situations, so it just blended. But the scheduling was really cool. Whereas like full time was 3 days a week, not realizing 3 long, stressful 12 hours a day. But that gave me the freedom to do a lot of other things on the side, like train, because that was my passion. I had a bachelor's in kinesiology. So I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to do something So I got a side job in New York as a group fitness instructor. And basically throughout the years of working full time, I was doing some type of training, from group fitness to leading group fitness to essentially like coaching a group of people, then independent training. And I came to a point where my ER schedule was getting a little intense and I couldn't keep up with the in-person training. And the only way for me to like get my fix in the fitness and helping people was to go online, because I had create my own time and freedom in between my shifts. So that's when I started building social media and be basically saying, well, I can't be here in person with you to teach you this, but I can create a post and you can watch a post or watch this video. And then before I know it, people started feeding on. They're like, oh, wow, like she knows what she's talking about. Someone who's actually credible in the industry is speaking up, which I think is really, really important for people who are in that position. And then forward to today, people kept asking, do you, like, you teach so well, do you have a course? And basically so many people kept asking. I was like, maybe I should develop one. And so it came through demand. And the cool thing about this, how everything kind of played into it, is during COVID, like, do you know how like the big online era boomed during COVID?
I do.
Basically, you,
I definitely do.
exactly.
We were riding on the coattails of that boom.
Yes. So that's great. And for me, that actually is when I shut down my business, because the ER needed my help and I just could not keep up. So I gave all my clients away. I was trying to push people to other trainers to help them out, and actually shut down the business from March until May. And then the ER said, or the hospital healthcare said, thank you for your time. We ran out of money and we cannot afford to have you work.
Oh, no way. I thought it was going to be the other, where we're like, we need you 7 days a week.
No. So at that time, I was working for a private physician group contracted to a hospital. And long story short, they were working at a 1% margin of error, meaning they weren't ready financially for a pandemic. So after a month, I think it was $1 billion they lost, and then basically went bankrupt. So they at that time, June, they cut our hours by 50%. They also cut my salary by 50% too. And we became hourly employees. And I'm like, all right, I need to figure out how I'm gonna like pay for a roof over my head, you know? So I reopened my business and I launched my first program. Thank God that happened, because I would have I literally don't know how I would have paid for my rent. But then during all that free time in the middle of COVID, I had secret access to a gym in Harlem, where at night, when basically everyone was out, I was at the gym and I was filming and creating this course. So I spent all summer while I was, basically getting fired, not fired, but pretty much
Semi-fired.
Semi-fired, losing my job in the ER. I created this course. And
so
then
even then you were working on the Kettlebell Foundations course. Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's been a process, because I created it, and I'm sure everyone has been in this, in my shoes before, of like, it's not good enough. I'm not ready to launch it. Right. And actually Katie St. Clair, she was the driving force to get me to launch this course, because I was telling her about it and she was like, let me see it. Because I was like, it's not good enough, not good enough. I shared it with her and she started yelling at me. She's like, get this out immediately. Like, what are you doing? So then I put an effort to launch it this past January. And I was like, okay, I just need 25 people to sign up to get me going with this, right?
It's a cohort-based course, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. So I run it like every 3 months. So I have like a sign up, close registration. And then, so I just need 25 people to sign up. First group, I had 48.
Nice.
Like, oh, this is a thing. Okay, there's a demand here. And then I started realizing where I was kind of going down the line. And I was like, oh, I don't really need the ER anymore. And at this point, they were basically like, you don't have a job, or you can become a hospital employee. And I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm out. Like, I'm cool. I'm going to take a break from this type of life and explore this online course education trainer route full time. So basically that's kind of how I ended up here. And then I'm like, all right, I have an online course. My lease was ending in New York. I was like, well, I don't necessarily need to be here. Maybe I should travel the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a crazy, crazy idea at the time. But as soon as it popped in my head, as weeks went on, I was entertaining it more and more. I was like, this is actually sounds like a really good idea. It's possible. I can pay for myself. I'll still be making money and I get to see the world. And then I'm also, top of all of this, working on building out a trainer certification. And I want this to be global. So it makes sense if I traveled and created rapport with gyms across the world. So when I
Mm-hmm.
launch it, they know me and my brand. So it just made sense. And before I knew it, things just fell right into place. And I left for Europe in April and I'm still here.
Nice. That's a good story so far. I'm sure if I talk to you in another year's time, there'll be a lot more added on to that.
Yeah.
And now you're like, I think you're like the envy of most of the industry now at the moment, because people are watching you travel and watching you make a little bit of money as well and paying for that and stuff. So, and like that is pretty much even coaches who are like, they hate the online space. Like they say it's, oh, you're not a coach if you're not coaching in person on the gym floor every day, like, which is bullshit. But like they would be very jealous of what you're doing at the moment. So good job. Excellent. That's why I wanted to talk to you as well, because it was like,
Yeah.
people want to, I think it's nice for people to hear different stories like that. And yeah, so very, very cool. So when was your first cohort, did you say?
It was January. I ran in
January.
January, had
Yeah.
one May, and I'm in the middle of one, my third one. And this will run until December.
Yeah.
And then I'll restart. So I do it 3 times a year, and it's
Okay.
been awesome.
Nice.
Wonderful.
Excellent. How long is it?
3 months, so 12
3
weeks.
months. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. And you had 48 people sign up for your first one.
Yeah, which I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to manage all this? But it was very manageable.
Yeah. But that just shows like that you've put in the work for several years, and people have been they've been asking you for something. I see people on Instagram all the time or social media, like start something 6 weeks ago and they think, oh, why am I not getting paid yet? You know? So yeah, I'm going to ask you now, how much do you charge? You can tell me if you want. I know it's there. It's probably there on the website anyway. So yeah. Because
right
I'm going to do this maths in my head now just to figure out how is she paying for this trip.
Well, funny, before I answer that, the funny thing is as we all know, living in New York is crazy expensive.
Yeah.
I'm actually saving a lot of money by not being there and traveling around. Like, yeah, like flights and whatnot, but it's really not that much of a difference. But so this group, the third time running it, I charged $350 a month for 3 months.
Okay.
So you
I don't do public math, but I'll get the calculator out later on.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that sounds good. That sounds great. And is that your only revenue stream now at the moment, or do you have like programs, or are you coaching people online as well, or what?
Yeah, so I also have programs that I'm selling, and they're just like DIY programs. And then I used to have some people that I would train online, but with the time scheduling right now, it's really, really hard to match up. I'm right now in the Middle East and a lot of my clients are in the States. So I stopped that in the meantime. And then I'll do like one-off webinars and stuff like that. And then like tutorials. But I would say that is my main consistent stream of income. And then actually, it's really cool. As I'm traveling, people I'm meeting or people that have known me through social media, I'm actually training them too while I'm here. So like, for example, in Croatia, while I was there for 3 months, there was a girl that wanted to train with me. So I got to still get that in-person experience while I was living abroad. So that was really cool too.
Yeah, nice. And you probably get a little bit of content from that as well, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What's your schedule then on a daily basis? Like, let's say roughly, or is there a schedule, or is it just like wake up and see what you need to do, which is kind of my schedule?
Yeah. I try to be a little bit structured, but it is really hard. So just to give you reference on, I came from a life of working full-time in the ER and working full-time online. So I had zero free time, right? Have you ever read the book 4-Hour Workweek?
Yeah.
That's kind of like my life, right? So technically right now running the course, I teach a lecture for an hour. I review assignments for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Pretty much that's all I need to do right now per week.
Yeah.
Obviously that's not, what I do, but sometimes depends. It's mainly social media, keeping up with it. But yeah, so typical day for me is I wake up, I try to wake up early, right? And
What time is early now? You're going to have to tell us.
well, right now, this is really sad. So mind you, this is post-surgery, which we'll talk about in a bit. But right now I'm waking up around 11, 12 o'clock.
Are you counting that as early? No.
Because this is not me, but being that I'm recovering, I'm like averaging 12 hours of sleep a day. It's really crazy. But for me, early in real world time would be 7, 8 o'clock.
Okay, cool. Okay. You're off the hook.
But yeah, right now I'm like struggling to get up at 9 a.m. But I'm forcing myself just to try to get, because I really don't like waking up that late and half the day is already gone. Like it's a waste for me.
Yeah, but
So
your body just tells you, like when you're after when you've been sick or whatever. I always think it, not in the same way as obviously you at the moment, but like I always think, oh, if I caught a bad flu or something, I'd still be fine. I'd motor on, and then when actually it happens, my body's just like, no, all I want you to do right now is sleep. Okay, so what when you wake up, what happens next?
So usually I'm the freshest mentally when I wake up. So have a cup of coffee and then I get to the creative part of the business. So I get to things that require a little bit more out of me, whether if it's content creation, whether if it's website stuff, course development. So I will do work for about 2 to 3 hours. I try not to work more than that. And then get to movement, some type of working out. I'm definitely used to midday working out, just how my body's from New York, because it was like, wake up clients midday, that's the only free time you had. And then after that, when my brain's a little bit more tired, I'll get to the things that don't require you to think much, like answering emails or answering DMs and like, doing stuff like that or jumping on calls. And then after that, I try to do something outdoors if I haven't been outdoors. And that's a cool thing about traveling is wherever I'm at, I get to explore. So in Tel Aviv here, there's a beach a block away from me. So I go walk the boardwalk, go to the beach, go for a swim, and just get to enjoy like the evening. And that's pretty much a standard day.
Nice. Very nice.
Quality of life.
Yeah, that's so good. That's like not necessarily my dream, but so I think something I'd like to work more towards. But then again, I always say that, and like we probably could do that right now and we're not, because we're trying to like push. But I think if we can get to the stage where we have our courses out, and I'm working on like some kind of pre-recorded course, I think, and then it would be more of a live interactive course, like something like you're doing. But I think the hard part probably is just getting to the stage where you actually have that stuff released, and then you can kind of profit off the back of that a little bit, and maybe the work isn't as much then. So that's why I'm very impressed with you, that you were able to get that together while working pretty much 2 full-time jobs at the same time.
I said in one of my webinars before, and I was like introducing people or myself to people, and I was like, I'm either crazy or a genius between a full-time job and building a business on the side. But the funny thing about this is I actually went to a marketing conference in London when you guys are in the States. I was right next door. But and in this marketing conference, I learned so much. My background is medical and fitness, right? So I'm a sideline typing, Googling, like, what's a KI? Like, I didn't know there's different types of websites, HTML, like my knowledge is zip. And I was talking to some people on the side and telling about my business. And they're like, do you have pixels set up? I was like, what's that?
Yeah.
And they're like, you're not anything.
Yeah.
And they're like, how are you surviving as a business and how are you doing so well? And I was like, passion. So after that, they basically said that I'm running my business blind and I need to start, so now that I know, but it's amazing to see after almost a year in of how well this is doing with me, not even have a clue from like the marketing and business side of how to do it. I'm learning as I go, but I love and I'm so passionate about what I'm teaching that almost like it doesn't matter. It's going to enhance my business, of course.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show that is so, so important when we're doing what we're doing,
Yeah. 100%. I couldn't agree more. And we've been there. We're learning as we go. I actually try and stay away from as much of the website stuff. I couldn't log into my website if you ask me. I would not have a clue. Kira goes in there. We have a web guy as well that is just like a contractor for us. So I wouldn't have a clue, but I would like to be better at that stuff, but I've kind of skipped over it a little bit because my time is better spent elsewhere. But we still probably suffer because I'm not good enough at it. But people make the mistake of like with the brand where they come out with, they try and figure out like the best brand name, the fancy t-shirts, the website, all of that stuff, and there's just no substance behind it. And you can make money, for a short period of time. But what you're talking about is doing something global and having a certification and all of this stuff. Like marketing just won't. I don't think marketing will get you there, because you need word of mouth to spread, and you need people to actually do your courses and say that was amazing. Like,
exactly. And that's the best marketing right there, is referrals and word of mouth. That's like the most important thing. But it's a learning experience for sure. And I agree with you. So I understand. Years ago, I remember an entrepreneur told me a successful businessman or businesswoman is one that is able to delegate tasks to others. And I understand that. And I'm just waiting. I'm baby in this game. I'm not even a year in, and I'm just waiting for the times where I can start delegating. I'm creating systems of like, when I hire out, of like, this is how you do this, this, and this. So I'm already kind of preparing my business for that, but I cannot wait for the day to be able, like, you run this, you run that. But it's good now. It's taking me, a lot more hours than I would like to learn, but also when I go to hire, or whenever I hire, I can speak their language and know what to look for and know I'm not going to get duped and stuff like that. So that is really important, and why I value this learning experience right now.
Yeah. It's really important, because if you were hiring a tech person, like, you could be hiring them, or even contracting a tech person, they could quote you something, and they could be saying this is going to take 20 hours work, and it could take them 20 minutes, and you wouldn't have a clue.
Totally.
And that is a scary thing as well. Like for me, that's definitely a scary thing, that they could be just completely duping you and you don't have a clue. What was the name of the marketing conference?
It was called Digimarcon.
Okay.
London. They're all over. I met some really cool people there. Learned a lot. Now I'm finally putting into place. Yeah.
So you're getting your, like, do you have an email list, a newsletter in place, and all that stuff?
Yeah. So that was the one thing I took away years ago. I think it was with Kyle Dobbs, of like, if you're not starting email list, start today. So I've been building that. And now it's just, the biggest thing is just tracking and analytics right now, but email lists, newsletters are going, running social, finally getting on different social accounts. Because, like, the big question is, when Instagram is going down, what are you going to do? You can't be solely focused on that. You have to hit other things, starting blogs and stuff like that. So fully jumping into this online world.
Yeah, there's a lot to do. Do you have like any funnels set up? Do you have like a free gift if we sign up to our newsletter, that type of thing?
Yeah, I have a free tutorial.
Yeah.
So essentially, if you sign up, or I'll like push one new thing, I'm like, oh, you get a free Turkish get up tutorial.
Oh, nice.
Or, stuff like that. So a little give and go.
Yeah, perfect. So then someone comes on, and do you have like a funnel then where they're getting automatic emails for a few weeks after that?
Not yet. Everything. So I just hired a marketing team.
Oh,
So
nice.
their work, yeah. So that was my first investment. And they are working on creating what I don't even know what you call it, where like you're just saying people subscribe and then they have a follow-up email.
Yeah,
So they're working on creating that. Otherwise, I've been manually doing everything. So
yeah,
like I'll have on my calendar alarm, make sure to email this group.
yeah,
And I'll create a personalized email like, hey, thanks for joining, so
yeah. But all them emails are you just save them emails and then you just end up having put them into a campaign basically. So if someone gets tagged and then they go into a campaign. Look, we've done a bit of this, but like mostly I have people sign up to my email list and I tell them you're going to go into this like, oh, here's all the emails you're going to get from us with all different information. And half of them never get anything. So it's just like, I don't know. It's just I'm trying to do too much stuff and I never like just stuff everywhere. So I'm trying to figure it out. But that's cool with the marketing stuff. This sounds like an interrogation where I'm just asking you all the questions. But
I love it.
I think people should be listening to this and thinking like, okay, I would love to. I bet you if you asked anyone listening to this, they would say, I would love to do what Sam is doing in whatever. Like, I'd love to have the option to be able to travel and teach and work X amount of hours. But what people often say to me is, oh, like you are me or someone else, like someone else who's actually successful, they're just different to me. Like they have all of this stuff and they're all really smart and blah blah blah, and I'm not. And it's just like, no, you just haven't seen the little steps and the struggles along the way that help someone actually get there, you know.
Yeah, the biggest thing is if you're willing to put in the time and effort, and if it's something you really want, you'll make it happen, and it's like, how bad do you want it? And how much, I mean, this essentially, if you were to look at it, this was 10 years in the making to be at where I'm at. It's not
Mhm.
like I randomly was like, oh, let's just get up and leave and figure it out. Everything kind of lined up perfectly. But even then, it's like, how bad do I want it? Am I willing to sell everything? Am I willing to leave my family and friends behind to do this? So it's a lot of questions that you have to ask, and those answers will dictate if you actually do it or not, honestly.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Short
I
term for
definitely.
me, this is definitely not a
Hmm.
lifestyle where I want to like jump around. I need a little bit more stability, but I'm also trying to figure out where that next place is. So I figured why
Hmm.
not travel and figure it
Yeah.
out.
So phase one was like the Instagram stuff and then create some of the DIY programs. Phase two was your Kettlebell Foundations course. And then phase three is it's more of a certification.
Yeah, so ultimately it's going to be a trainer certification. And how this all came to be was actually from medicine, my background. So I didn't understand why I had to go through this intense schooling to become a clinician, right? Where I had didactic written exams, but also practical exams, where I would walk into a room given a patient scenario and have to navigate that situation and get tested on that. And I'm like, wait, but trainers also are on the floor, deal with patients and or clients, but yet our trainer certification is taking a test online and all of a sudden you're a trainer. That didn't make sense to me. So I was originally inspired by Mike Boyle's certification, how it was a mixture of both, where you had to show up in person and show me how are you going to navigate a training or a workout with someone.
Hmm.
So ultimately, into the kettlebell world, there's really not something like that out there. It's the kettlebell certifications that are out there now is, can you perform a skill? Can you do this endurance test? And then 5%, not even, is a little bit on coaching.
Yeah.
But then it's a trainer certification. And I'm just like, you have these trainers, and I was one of them. I took all the kettlebell certifications and I still didn't feel confident of how to coach these
Coaching.
skills, right?
Yeah.
If you have someone who's not competent in like a ballistic hinge and you're having them doing swings, how do you know how to regress or progress that, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm stepping in, and my business is going to be where I'm going to teach you how to coach kettlebells safely and
Hmm.
efficiently. So you show up to the in-person certification, you're going to basically walk into a scenario and you're going to be graded on how you're going to test, or not test someone, but be graded on how well you interact with a client, take them through a workout. And let's say the client doesn't know how to squat. What are you going to do as a coach to help them to get them squatting right now in that session? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be graded on that, and then basically get asked questions of like, what if this happens and if that? And I think that's a better way to test how well you will be on the floor, because it's just real life situations, scenarios. So that's what I'm working on now. And I have the outline and syllabus done. Now it's just kind of fine tuning some things, and it's wild. It's crazy.
Nice. I'm with you 100%. The how to coach. Everything I do with like education wise is about obviously teaching the theory and stuff like that. And it's like, how do you actually coach this? Because people are talking about all fancy biomechanics and stuff like that. And I love that stuff. But then you watch people actually, how do you get your client to be successful with this? And they do not have a clue. And it's
Yes.
like all of that knowledge is just absolutely useless at this point. Actually, it's worse than useless. You'd be better off not knowing it, because you're just confusing yourself knowing stuff and not actually being able to coach it. It's astounding to me. And then, like, for example, with the like the breathing type of stuff that's going around at the moment, some people then will say, oh, this doesn't work, it's useless, like it doesn't work because I'm not getting results, or I've tried it myself, or I've tried it with some clients, and I'm like, show me how you actually do it. It's like of course it doesn't work. Look at the state of what you've just done. Why would you expect that to work? So that is definitely the future of the industry, is like actually how to coach, how to communicate, how to critically think and problem solve. That is 100% missing from pretty much every course I would say every course I've ever done. And
Absolutely.
I've done a lot.
And it's I get it. It's really hard to teach a course in, I call it the gray area, right? Because we like black and white. It's easy. If this, then that. I get that. But we have to understand, as clinicians, as practitioners, as trainers, we work in a gray area. If this works for this client, it may not work for that client. And you have to know how to critically think and figure it out to work for them. So teaching that is pretty tough, because it's like, well, it depends. And, but I think it's possible. I think people who've done it, who have been experienced and have that experience, can create semi systems, semi
Mm-hmm.
patterns that you can look for, and just know it's not end all be all. Because what drives me up a wall is like, I thought kettlebell swings, you can't bend your knees at all. That was like the most recent thing. I'm like, okay, how about you swing right now and not bend your knees and tell me how it goes, right? Stuff like that. I'm like, where did that even come from?
Someone just mentioned that one day and then someone else took it.
Yeah. And it's like
mad.
The truth. And I'm like, no, how about let's think about why you would want to bend your knees, et cetera, then actually because so-and-so said so. So that's where I'm really honing in on, my students in the course of like, well, let's talk about why. Let's have you talk through this or think through this so you can understand why it would work here, but not in this scenario.
Yeah.
So,
Critical thinking is the hardest thing to teach by far. You're not taught that in the schooling system at all. Like from when you first enter there at 4 years of age, you're just saying, what is the answer? Is it this answer or that answer? And like that just doesn't work when you're working with human beings, really.
right.
So it's a tricky one. I'm with you on that, but I think if you can get that right, then like you're gonna help a lot of people, and the quality of the work would be far, far, far superior. So that's cool. That's really good. Have you noticed an improvement in your social media engagement, and like, not engagement, I don't like that word, but like, has it worked better for you since you've actually been traveling as well, and you've been more showing a bit of your life as well?
Actually, no, I haven't noticed. I actually don't think. It's interesting because my followers, most of them are lifers, meaning I have people that have been following me for years, right? So they love seeing my personal stuff and what I'm doing back and forth. The new people that are coming in, since that trust and rapport hasn't built, I really don't think they care. It doesn't matter. I'm going to do what I want to do. And if you like it, stay. If you don't, leave. I don't care. But I see it as, regardless of how many followers I have, how much percentage of those followers can I impact? Whether if it's 100,000 or 2,000 of that thousands or of those hundreds, how many can I finally impact? Because there may be someone that followed me 5 years ago that hasn't done any of, my courses and whatnot. And then finally they decide they want to learn more 5 years later. So I'm more about retention rate and keeping those people happy and educated any way that I can. And I'm not really looking, obviously growth is nice.
I don't mean growth though necessarily. I mean, I actually mean that impact, like that impact that you're having. Do you feel like you're having better impact with the people that do follow you? Not necessarily that you're getting loads and loads and loads of new followers,
Yeah, I think people appreciate, I don't know, they can tell me, but so far of what I've gauged, I think they do appreciate learning more about my personal life and me humanizing myself. Because I think before I was very, very business and didn't really share much of my personal life. And now that I think people are like, oh, wow. Because even when I'm traveling, people that I've never met before, they'll reach out like, hey, I see you're in my city. Let's hang out. And they're not like intimidated by wanting to meet me. Like even today, I just had lunch and worked out with one of the girls on Instagram. Never met, but got along so well. So that's really cool of being able to let them feel that I'm not this person on a pedestal. I hope no one would ever think that about any of us, that we're just human, just like you, living life.
Yeah. I know it's impossible to measure. I can't see how you like what you're doing on your social media at the moment couldn't be beneficial. I cannot see. I think it's a big deal. Like even I spoke to Kira just this morning. I said, "Oh, I'm talking to Sam today." And just chatting and saying like, and he is there anything in particular you think I should ask her or anything like that? And we were talking about your social media, and she said it's just been very nice for her to follow even more recently, and we've both been following you for a few years now probably, but I think her words were something like it's nice to see like a very smart, intelligent, strong businesswoman who's doing the things that she wants to do, living the life she wants to live, and she has like the dream body or something like that. And that was Kira's words. And like before, I don't know, 6 months ago, she might have said she's really strong and she has the dream body, and not all of the other stuff. So I think that's cool, and I think people think that their social media needs to be this super like everything has to be this fitness thing, or like if I show anything outside of that, I'm gonna struggle. And my experience has been the exact opposite.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's hard because it's easy to get caught up with the Joneses of social media, and I always remind myself, and actually you, Katie, Kyle, you guys, I look up to, just like, they're just being you, especially with your comments. I love how you just like put things on, and it's just, I can see your personality and character, even though like we never met in person, through your comments of what you make, the comments that you make on your posts. And I think that's really, really important to be able to like, wow, I'm learning from him, but also getting a taste of who David Grey is, so I try to stick to that and say, hey, I'm going to teach you something, but also like, this is who I am.
Yeah. I think that my two things just with regards to me and this conversation. One, the podcast, I think that's helped a ton with that. It's never going to be a number one podcast or anything like that, but like I have a group of 1,000 to 2,000 people who listen to pretty much every episode. And I think those people hopefully feel like they know me, and then obviously some of my guests better as well. And I feel like if I started running the in-person workshops 12 months ago versus now, I feel like they wouldn't have been like they're all selling out. Like, so I feel like the podcast and just the personal side of it, like people actually want to come and meet me, and I want to meet them rather than just they're coming for the information, And I think you're going to find that as well, or maybe you're probably already finding that as well. People are actually want to meet you and hang out with you and get your like when you go to an event, especially, I think you're paying for like the energy of being in the room as much as you are paying for the. People don't even know that maybe when they're booking the event, they don't realize that, but but that's what they're half of the reason they're paying for it is like the energy of getting in the room with someone.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I can't wait to get back to running some workshops when I get back to the States. And I'm actually working on creating a retreat with two of my girlfriends. Yeah. So I totally agree. Like that stuff is so important for people just to experience like the energy that you bring, the energy that they bring with you, you know. The best compliment that I got was actually I now call her my friend, but she followed me on Instagram and then found out that I was in Portugal. So she reached out and she's like, hey, let's meet. And we met in person. She goes, you know what, Sam? She's like, I felt like I already knew you. She's like, you are exactly who you are in person, the way you portray yourself online. And I thought about that. I was like, wow, the fact that she's saying that tells me that there are people that are not like that, where online there's put on this personification, meet in person, and they're completely different. So I was like, wow, that's really awesome. It just goes to show of the authenticity, you know, of like staying true to who I am. And I'm not this false person. I'm just as goofy, you know, in person and smart in person as I am online, you know?
Yeah, I think it's hard to keep up that. I think it would be hard to keep up that game for too long if you are faking it, like, you know, especially when you do start to show more of your life. Like, yeah, I just don't think it would work for particularly long. Now, maybe some people can do it, but like, guarantee they're not happy either because they have to put on this. Now, look, I have to when I'm sometimes when I'm doing social media, I'm like, oh, okay, blah blah blah, and then I click record. And I'm like, hey guys, like, you know. So you do have to pump yourself up a bit, but like that's not. I don't think that's being fake. It's just like, okay, I can't be moping on this video here. Hey guys, just a quick break from the show. I'm just trying to figure something out here. You might be able to help me. So each episode of the podcast gets about 1,000 or so listens in the first week or first couple of weeks, maybe a bit more than 1,000. But for DJ Interactive, we actually only have 730 coaches and therapists signed up at this moment. So that means there's about 300 and maybe more. Like we actually sometimes get like 1,500 or 2,000 listens to a podcast. So that means there's at least 300 people who are listening every week, but are not signed up to DJ Interactive, which just doesn't make sense. You're obviously interested. You obviously want to learn. You obviously, well, not obviously, but you definitely, if you're being honest with yourself, you have 10 or 15 minutes every week to learn a little bit of something. Very cheap. Value is very high, and it takes 10 or 15 minutes a week to learn all of this stuff, and it'll come back to you tenfold because you'll be a better coach / therapist. You learn a lot about movement and you'll enjoy it along the way, which is important. Hopefully hopefully enjoy the podcast. So if you're one of those 300 odd people, make sure you click into the show notes, sign up for DJ Interactive. Yeah, you'll enjoy that, and you'll have even more content to dig your teeth into. So now back to the show. Any tips for the content creation side of things?
I mean, number one is authentic, you know, be who you are. That's what's going to make you unique and stand out to everyone else. Because I could be teaching the same thing as any other kettlebell coach, but how I say it and how I, you know, just kind of put in a flair of me behind that is what's going to make it different than something else. And then being consistent, you know, being authentic and being consistent of just putting out a similar message, putting out a similar concept throughout. I think you're really going to go far with that, and people will naturally be drawn to you and love you, you know.
Do you think it's very important that you picked a niche with the kettlebells?
You know, I was just talking about that today. Niches are good. You have to be okay with being, unfortunately, labeled as the kettlebell girl. However, I think it's good. So this is my opinion. I think it's good to have a niche, but I also think it's good to go outside of that niche too, but know that this is your core. This is the core of what most of you're going to be focusing on. But hey, I also do barbells. Hey, I also do dumbbells, calisthenics, whatever that is. Or I like surf and whatever you want to put in there, but having a focus, but not strictly sticking to that, just to show more well-roundedness. But if you're strictly doing that, then I guess just do that. But that's not me, you know. So
Yeah.
I try to create that balance.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, especially if you're going to go, especially if you're going to, like, you are moving into the education space. That's where having a niche is more helpful, I think, because you can break through and be very targeted with your content. It is tricky to figure out. Like, I've battled with that for a couple of years now with the niche side of things, because I don't really have a niche, but then I kind of do, which is like rehab. But then some people are very successful with just like, this is like, they just do hip rehab or knee rehab. And I suppose maybe we're kind of niche towards lower limb rehab a bit more, but I just talk about that on Instagram and social media more, but I do loads of lower back, upper back, shoulder, neck clients and stuff like that. So I don't know. I go around in circles on this all the time.
No, yeah, I mean, I think you explained it very well, is that your, tone is rehab. The next focal point is lower body, but you tap into full body. It just may not be as much as lower, but you're showcasing people that you also do other things,
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's like a good tier, if I were to break it down, a good tier system of how to organize that,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think maybe like you might find yourself breaking through on the kettlebell stuff, and then in the future, then you can have other things that you're selling related to all the other stuff that you know. But maybe if you try and sell everything and try and be an expert on everything, or talk like you're an expert on everything in the beginning, then that might be, you might not break through in the first place at all. So
Right.
yeah, it's something to, it's definitely something to think about. And the ultimate example of that is like knees over toes guy,
Yes.
and it was, all his content was like knees, 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 knees. And now they kind of, and it still is, but now they talk about, it's like, okay, we can fix and we can bulletproof every joint in the body, this kind of thing. So yeah, I think he's probably a great example of that. Okay, you want to tell us a little bit about your recent few weeks?
Yeah. Speaking of personal life, yeah. So in the midst of all of this greatness that was going on, actually, back in May, I noticed some things and felt a lump on my breast. And my mom has a history of breast cancer. So I was in Croatia by myself at this time and had a moment. And I was like, okay. And also, coming from the medical background, you can imagine we think the worst quickly. So I pretty much got it checked out. At the time, the doc didn't think much of it. Essentially, there's this very common in young females, intraductal papilloma. Basically, it's just abnormal cells within the mammillary ducts. They're not cancerous, however, they can turn into cancer. So at the time, the doc said, hey, you're going to need this out. It's not emergent surgery, but you're going to have to get it out. So I had my summer, and our plan was to come back in September to do this. Well, as the summer progressed, symptoms started actually getting worse. So I saw one doctor, and as a clinician, I tell every single one of my patients, and I still do to this day, always, no matter what, always get a second opinion. And I wasn't even taking my own advice. I'm like, Sam, what are you doing? So that's how we are, right? We're the
Yeah,
worst.
I've been there. Don't worry. Not with that, but with everything else in my life.
Yeah. So I'm like, how about you take your own advice for once? And I did. And thank God I did, because I had a repeat ultrasound, and basically it either was missed or it got worse. And the type of surgery I was going to have changed into a different type of surgery. Basically, it's a little bit more extensive and also a little bit more urgent. This new surgeon was basically like, you can have it this weekend. I wouldn't wait longer than a week. And I'm like, okay, all right, that speaks volumes to me. So basically, they took it out. It was a diagnostic and therapeutic procedure where they took out a quarter of my milk ducts in one of my breasts. And basically, that was 2 weeks ago. Basically, I'm still waiting for results. It's been a journey. My mind likes to downplay a lot of things. So my body keeps reminding me you had major surgery. My mind is saying, like, why are you so exhausted all the time?
Yeah.
But so yeah, I will say the hardest part on all of this wasn't actually going through the procedure, wasn't going through the decision making. Oddly enough, and this is me personally, the hardest part was showing vulnerability, which is a crazy learning experience for me, because especially publicly, when I shared this, it was really hard for me to share it, because I'm seen as this educator, this person that people look up to get information from. And now I'm showing, this part where I'm down for the count and I can't hold up to this right now. I have to take care of myself. And that was really hard. It's still a process. And of course, I'm like, I'm back. And here I am, like, trying to create posts, and create content for everyone as I'm like in the hospital bed. I'm like, Sam, stop, like, take care of yourself. What are you doing, you crazy? So that's more or less been quite a learning experience for myself, but I guess goes to show on the positive side of how much I love what I do and how much I care about educating and teaching, that it gives me joy doing this. And I feel I love it. But at the same time, there needs to be boundaries where I have to say, you need to recover.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Do you think you caught it early when back in May?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I didn't have symptoms, it could have just been staying there and brewing. And, something like this, which we think it's intraductal papilloma, if it does get missed, and this is how usually cancer can develop, is it gets missed, you can't tell, and then all of a sudden it turns into a tumor. So I think it was a blessing in disguise that this all happened. Also, that it happened in Croatia, not the States. But that's what I'm hoping on. I was caught early. It's one and done, and I can move on. Because honestly, like, I don't have time for this. Like, yeah, I got to get through it, but I have things, like I told you guys, I have things that I need to do, certifications to build, and the world to travel. Like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. What were the symptoms, just in case, just for anyone else listening?
Yeah. So,
if you don't mind, you can,
sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. So basically, I was bleeding from my nipple. And I thought, like, I accidentally cut myself, and then actually noticed where it was coming from. And then I did a self-exam, which for females, like, you guys need to do a self-exam. You need to learn how to do it, because it's so common and prevalent to have this and breast lumps and mass, and be able to determine the difference between the two. Anyways, self breast exam. And I noticed a lump, and usually a concerning lump is hard, fixed, and not tender, where it's just like not painful. And I found that, and I'm like, it's literally when you find that and have those symptoms with bloody discharge, it's cancer until proven otherwise.
Okay.
So that alone, it was like red flag alert. I need to get this taken care of immediately. And then that's when I went to the doctor and got the ultrasound, and
Awesome.
they found.
Excellent. And you're kind of waiting now to get the final all clear.
Yeah. They suspect, basically the doctor said 90% benign, 10% cancerous, but they're doing this to rule out that 10%, because that's a big hefty 10%,
Yeah. Cool. Well, it looks like you've bounced back very, very well. So thank you very much for coming on. I think you're a big inspiration, and I think there's more females in particular in the fitness industry that need strong female characters to look up to, and that are, well, in the world probably in general. And I'm not a big feminist person or anything like that, but like, I don't know, I just see when Kira is looking at people, and me too, like just looking at girls who are strong and look well and are smart and are building a business and are doing stuff. I think that's very cool and very important for other people, because there's a lot of shitty people to look up to, and that people look up to in the industry. So we need some good people too.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. What is there anywhere that you'd like people to go to have a look at all your stuff? I'm sure, aside from all the business talk, obviously you're an excellent coach as well. So I'm sure that there's loads of people that would like to check out your courses and certifications and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. One Stop Shop is going on Instagram. I have everything in the bio as far as getting to it, but my Instagram is at my name, SCIACCIA.
Say that again. SCIACCIA.
Yeah.
Which is Ciaccia.
Ciaccia.
Yeah.
And then my business is Bell Mechanics. So that also has an Instagram that I'm building and growing, and that's at Bell_mechanics. Pretty straightforward. But then from there, you can get to the courses, you can get through tutorials, some free stuff. So yeah, all the fun things.
Excellent. How do you think it's important to have the two Instagrams?
No. I
Good answer.
I honestly, that is a consistent conversation I'm having with myself of why I have Bell Mechanics. I'm figuring it out why I have it was like more of an impulse make of like, I have a brand, so here. But still people, I think having a page, no matter what it is a page where people trust, and that's my personal brand. But I think later on it will be, because I'm trying to detach Sam Ciaccia to Bell Mechanics, right? I don't want to be, I want to have other people running it and being a part of it too. So I don't want to be just Sam.
Yeah.
So that's why I created it for the long term. But right now it's,
yeah.
I don't know.
100%. I like, that's again, we have all the same problems at the moment. We honestly do, because same here. Like, my business is my name, but in one way, I've like really embraced the personal brand thing over the last 12 months. I fought against that for so long, and then I just was like, okay, I'm just going to call my podcast that, our business that, all of these things. But there is not for everyone now, but there is a limit to like how much you can scale that. It's very tricky. It's just another one of them things that there's probably no right answer to either,
I'm thinking of this. I think it depends on what you're offering and what you're selling.
Yeah.
So where the Bell Mechanics and trying to create that stemmed from was the certification, right? I don't want to be like trainer under Sam Ciaccia, trainer under Bell Mechanics, or Bell Mechanics trainer. So ultimately, I knew down the line, I always wanted to create a certification. So that was my driving force to separate the two. But if it's just like, selling courses and selling programs, is not really necessarily that needed, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, no, it's not. And then we're maybe we'll have a certification or something in the future as well. So it just, you're right, it needs to be something else at that stage, like, so that's the hard part. That's the business part. And you know what, you'll never know really if you made the right call or not. Even if it was super successful, it doesn't mean that the other thing wouldn't have worked as well. So
right.
So yeah, but I suppose someone like Kelly Starrett, let's say, like he always had like Mobility WOD or whatever the hell it was, separate to him, which meant it probably didn't have to be him teaching every single thing, which ultimately, if you want to do the 4-hour work week, is going to be important.
Exactly.
Okay, excellent, Sam. Thank you very much. Do you have any other final thoughts or bits of sage wisdom for us? Or are we good?
I would say, to anyone who's listening, right now, I'm just all about, not right now, forever. Whatever you envision and dream, like, think about all the obstacles that are keeping you from it, and then start working on getting rid of those obstacles. It may take 1 year, may take 10 years, but coming from where I'm at now, it is so worth getting through that to live out your dream and your passion, like hands down, so worth it. So I just encourage everyone and anyone who's listening to really make waves towards that, because you're going to be so happy and so fulfilled as a human being, and it's going to be beneficial in the long run for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. Ticking off one problem at a time, and then every time you tick off one, like another one comes in at the other end of the list, like, as you're experiencing now, definitely with the business side of things. Is there any what's the next big business obstacle, or even small one? What are you trying to figure out?
I'm honestly trying to figure out if I made the right decision of hiring a marketing team. Just because, especially someone who is in a position to where I came to be, I'm very particular and like things. So handing them off to a group is really, really tough. But yeah, I would say immediately that's what it is just making the right decision of hiring the right people.
What are you asking them to do?
Ultimately, so we're starting to work on A/B testing for newsletters, prep for launch of what will work for launches of the course, and then also starting to dabble into ads, A/B testing for ads, and putting in the right words with the right pictures, and making sure that is to brand, and also making sure that it is me, that's being, or my business that's being replicated or represented. So that's the hardest part. And it's just a lot of revisions, a lot of back and forth and whatnot. But yeah, ultimately we're currently working on that to start pushing some things.
Yeah. I would say there, even if it's the wrong marketing team and the marketing doesn't work, it's still worth it. Because you're going to learn so much, and you learn what doesn't work. And you just need to, we've made a lot of mistakes. We've spent probably wasted money doing different things, but like, you just can't avoid it, because that is the price of trying to move at speed. And speed in business is the most important thing by far. We've been way too slow doing several things. But like, we have moved fairly fast at other things. And I would say the thing that's held us back by far is our lack of speed on some things. And if you're willing to spend money to get things to happen a little bit faster, even if that means making a mistake, it means you've made that mistake much faster, rather than just waiting another 12 months to try and figure out what marketing team should I hire, or how do I do this A/B testing. I would just say, just do it. Now, if you don't have money, if you don't have like a little bit of cash in the bank in the business that can, you can't afford to make that mistake, that's fine. But if you do, and not saying necessarily you do, but like, that is I would say investing in that speed is, even if it's speed, making a mistake is still a good investment.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I appreciate that, because it's always like the question, and I don't know if you ask this to yourself a lot, is like, am I making the right decision? I'm always asking myself that question. And you're right, it's really not, because it's always going to be a learning experience, and it's always direct, redirect. That's my
100%. Yeah, that's not the right question. Is, am I making the right decision? Is the right question is like, is this the direction I want to go? And is this a decision I need to make right now? And then if it is, then is this the best decision I can make at the moment? Like, it doesn't even mean it's right, but it's just better than the other options, which, and most of the time the option that people pick is the option of doing nothing. They don't fucking do it because they're afraid of making the wrong decision. I would much rather make the wrong decision and have made one and then figure it out after that.
That's so true. Yeah, that's so true. And if we continue to live that way, then like, all we're doing is moving, right? The worst thing you can do, like you're saying, is just stay stagnant. If you keep moving somewhere, someplace, and that's how you, this is so cliche, that's how you get places.
Yeah, 100%. An object in motion stays in motion. An object at rest stays at rest. That's the most my business like rule is that momentum. Just keep going. So as soon as we stop, it's not that you can't rest, like, or have periods where you work really hard and periods where you don't, but like, never stop trying to move forward, because it's way harder to get it going again. So I think you're doing the right thing, and it sounds like you have that nailed. So good job. Sam, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure, and I wish you all the best in all your stuff. I'll be keeping an eye. I'll be trying to steal as many tips from you as I can as you go along. So thanks so much.
Appreciate it. And thank you so much for having me. It was really awesome just to be able to talk to you. Like, the first time we were able to talk in person back and forth. So it was fun.
I think you were on one of Katie's. I actually just remembered when we first joined the call, I think you were on one of Katie's presentations, and you asked me, that's like 3 years ago now. And I remembered you asked me one question about a foot or something like that.
Yes.
You remember? So,
yeah, great memory.
Because I was thinking, I've never actually spoken to Sam, and I was like, no, I heard your voice on one thing asking a question. So that was that was a while ago now. So okay, I'm out of here. Thanks, Sam.
All right. Bye.
Hey guys, hope you really enjoyed that episode with Sam. Really good chat. Hope you weren't too jealous listening to her travel plans slash not plans, what she's actually doing, and business building and all of these things. So definitely gave me a bit of a kick up the ass, I think. And yeah, really good chat. Make sure you check her out, give it a share for us if you can as well. I would really appreciate it. I'm sure she would as well. It's nice to get a bit of feedback for the podcast. And yeah, apart from that, make sure if you're one of those people that's not signed up yet for DJR Interactive, I'd love to see you in there. Learn a little bit about biomechanics, rehab, movement, performance. I don't like separating it necessarily into rehab or like performance because it's all the one. It's just like, okay, here's how you move at the moment. Let's make you move a bit better. Let's make you a bit stronger. Let's make you a bit faster. And here's the ways that I do it. And here's how I would teach other people to do it as well. So 700 plus coaches and therapists in there. And then there's about 300 to 500 sneaky people listening to this podcast that aren't in there. So I'd love if you jumped on board. It would mean the world to us to see you in there and help spread this good message as well. So apart from that, I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you're having a good week. And every Thursday, our podcast drops. So make sure you have your following, click the following or notification or any of that stuff. And we'll see you next Thursday for another episode of the DGR podcast.